All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. We'd love you to support this show. Please like, follow, and subscribe to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Your likes and subscription helps us to grow and attract interviews and content. So please retweet and share our posts. Your contributions are appreciated.
Hi, and welcome to episode 483 of the KissFAQ Podcast. Today, we didn't allow Julian nowhere near the show because we're going to talk about his book. Please don't tell him. Mass Kissteria. This one.
Yes.
We've all read it, and we're going to... Is my picture mirrored, I think? Is it? Is it mirrored for you?
No,
it's just for me. Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about this one. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about Julian's previous work, maybe compare this one to his previous work. We'll talk about the visuals, the way he has built up the book, the chapters, what we thought of it, and so on. And at the you can use the chapters. I'll make chapters so you can move around this episode because I think it can be a pretty long one. I think we have a lot to say about this book. And if you don't have it, you have to go to Kissteria.com and get one immediately, because I think we all like this book. I can say ahead of time.
Yes.
I think it's one a little bit of a spoiler, but I think if you're a Kiss fan, you'll like it. So go to Kissteria.com. Just click the flag to your country, and you'll get to Amazon, and there you can order it. So this book actually made some noise over here in Sweden. I took a look at the charts, and it was at the top of the rock chart. I think it still is. And it actually made the top 10 for all genres in Sweden. It made it to number 7. I think that's his first book to enter the top 10 in Sweden. Amazing. On Amazon. So that was pretty cool. And I saw it was the best-selling rock book in Australia as well. So hopefully it has done pretty well. So maybe Julian considers writing another book. We'll see. He always says this is the last one. I'll never do it again. But we all
said
know
that so many times.
Yeah, he said it so many times. Okay, so let's start this off. I think we'll start off with a little bit of a comparison between this book and some of his previous stuff. What kind of differences did you notice, or what kind of similarities? Yeah, Mark is holding up the Odyssey book, which most people think it is his best work, along with the solo.
The solo one to me is probably one of the ones that I like the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you compare this one with the solo book, what do you say? Is it up to the same level, or?
I think what I like, and don't get me wrong here, I love the solo book. It's the book that I still go and have on hand all the time. I kind of, whenever I'm in the mood to read about something Kiss-wise, I always tend to grab that book because there's so many great stories about recording studios and stuff like that, and I really enjoy that aspect of the book writing. But the thing that I like a little bit better than that book, what I like about this one, like this one I think is a bit better, is the fact that there's a bit more photos in there. There's a bit more stuff to refer to, whereas in the other books there's a lot more text, and that's fine because I like reading stuff. It's not a problem, and especially if it's stuff I like to read, then there's no problem. But there's like a lot of stuff in this book that I find extremely fascinating. Like there's like contracts in here, and there's
I
letters.
knew you were going to say that.
And there's letters from management, from McQueen management, talking about specific things within the specific countries, and touring schedules, and and what's really great about how Julian did this as well is that it's very specific to certain countries as well. Like if you look at this chapter here, it says France 2 on it, right? I don't know if you can see that, but it has France 2, which means that this is the second bit of information on the country of France. And if you go a couple of pages down, he has New Zealand. There's stuff here on, Spain, and all kinds of different countries are represented in the book. Yeah, there's something here on Melbourne, Adelaide. He even goes in detail within Australia, because as we know, one of the biggest regions for unmasked was Australia. All right, so obviously he could have had a lot of stuff in there about that. So that's one of the things that I feel makes this book just a hair better, like not better, but I like this one a bit better than the solo album book, which was my favorite up to this point because of that. But I do want to show one other thing really quickly. Just talk amongst yourself, and I'm going to grab something. Okay.
So Ken, what's your favorite Julian book if you can't pick Mass Kissteria? Do you have one?
Kind of like them all in different ways.
Okay.
I mean, even going back to the Kiss album focus books, those 3 volumes, I always enjoyed those. And then the newer stuff they did, he did the one on Crazy Nights not that long ago, which was pretty good too. So, yeah, I mean, they're all. I enjoy them all, but yeah, there's as far as if we talk about format, I would like a little bit of mixture of like what the new one is, maybe with even more interviews mixed in, because a lot of those, Odyssey and solo album books have interviews, right? It's pretty much mostly interview, and if you had interviews mixed in with this kind of stuff, that would be cool too, But anyway,
yeah,
Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes. So what I was going to say is, how when you collect vinyl, people say that, oh, if you don't have the Rock and Roll Over radio promo sample record, that you're not a real, vinyl collector. Well, yeah. I'm going to challenge that by saying, if you don't own this book, then you're not a real Julian Gill fan and collector of his books. And this is going to give me a hernia to lift this, but it's this gigantic stone of a book. This thing is, look at the size of this thing. Okay? It's heavy as hell. It's a hard copy. I mean, what is this, like 700 pages or something?
Yeah,
it's like 992 I'm on here page.
He's broken them down into 3 volumes now because it's too darn big.
Yeah, so there you go. That's volume 2. I have volume 1 as well, but I got this as well, the huge entire thing. And this thing is a serious read. I mean, this is like, this is like the Bible of Julian Gill here. Like when you open this, it has like every possible date and information that you could probably, find on concert dates from Kiss on here. Now, Julian will probably correct us and say, no, I found more information since this release. So,
yeah, another quick thing regarding the book you're talking about there, Kiss on Tour, is what this is. To me, this is like an expansion. It's like focusing in more on that one time period that's in the Kiss on Tour book, but it's like you're focusing in deeper, and then you're getting all this extra stuff, more details on it, and that would be good for him to do on other tours that are in the Kiss on Tour book. Focus in and do the same thing. Do a Creatures tour, whatever, Dynasty tour, same kind of stuff, and just focus in on, and that's what I look at this as. It's like a real focus in. The one on Kiss on Tour, you have the details and the general stuff, but this has everything, all the whatever reviews and so on.
And kind of like this, at the end of that book, you have a picture of this book at the end of the one that Ken just held up, because he said
Mark is holding up the Odyssey book for you who listen to the audio.
Yes. So this is the one that kind of continues into it, right? It continues from that book that we just talking about now into this, and this is exactly what Ken described, the Unmasked one does. I think this kind of does the same thing. This goes into much more greater detail. So if you like run across even though there's no touring dates for the Elder
there's no
tour,
touring dates,
but
right.
if you wanted to get into detail about why they didn't or the background of the album, then you just get this book to find out more. And I think Ken's right on the nose when he says that Julian should make other books to accompany these other times, or make a book centered around the Love Gun period, or make a book centered around, God forbid, the Destroyer period, or something like that. Like something, just to give it a bit more detail.
He'll do it now, just because
very,
you said that.
Very well put, you guys. I think this is kind of similar. I'm showing Kiss on Tour. I think it's kind of similar to Mass Kissteria. And as Ken said, Mass Kissteria is like you're using a magnifying glass and going into Unmasked Tour. And I think it was a kind of a cool thing he put at the end of Mass Kissteria. There's like, if you want to read more, read about the next year and then he adds a picture of
Mark
the Odyssey book.
Yeah,
I think that was a great way to end the book. So if people get excited about Mass Kissteria, there's a continuation in the Elder book, Odyssey. And that's a huge book that will teach you a whole lot. So I recognize the way it was written from Kiss on Tour, and then I think he actually used things that Ron, what's his name, the guy who was going to make that magic book, he used dates
Ross,
in order to
Radley.
explain what happened. So this time around, Julian has used that format at times. Dates, what happened in this. I think that was a good way to break up the chapters. So I think that was a good addition. I don't think it's done that previously in Kiss on Tour, but that was something new. Okay, that's a bit about how the book was structured. What about the visuals of the book? Because I think the visuals is the biggest difference from his previous books.
Oh, yeah.
We can start with you, Mark. We can start with the cover, actually. Just tell us what you think about the cover.
Well, I think the cover is really good. I like the way they did the coloring of it. I mean, if you take a look, then there's the associated color with each band member kind of shading behind him, right? So you have like the red behind Gene, the purple behind Paul, and the blue behind Ace, right? And stuff like that. So I like the way they did that. I think that's fantastic. And like I said earlier, the thing I really like about this book in general is that there's far more graphic stuff and photographs in here. Like there's all kinds of different things in here that you can look at, right? And I've always been a sucker for memos and, contracts and stuff like that. But that's also stuff like that.
This has to be Mark's favorite page. It's all contracts and memos.
Oh yeah, definitely. Those are the kind of things that I like reading. Yeah. And of course, what's also fantastic too is I know that Julian has always been one of these guys that loves investigating newspaper clippings, and stuff like that. And the fact that he has a bunch of them here that you can actually read. That's the one thing I hate about some people's books is that they put clippings in there and you're like, what the hell does that say? You're like squinting to try to read it, And this is very easily legible in here. He did a great job with that. I have to definitely tip his hat in. And like even stuff like this, being a musician myself, I always have to smile when I see like ads like that for Eric Carr, like the Ludwig drum ads. So because I remember seeing those in magazines from days gone past, like long time ago, right? And of course when he puts in, for us vinyl collectors, when he puts like, the 7-inch covers and the singles associated like with them, the actual 45, like that's the kind of photography that I'm guessing. It's not that he didn't want to put it in the other book, but I'm guessing maybe there were certain reasons why he couldn't do it in the other books. Maybe there was, maybe he had to pay a certain amount of money to get certain rights to things, or maybe just he didn't have them at the time. So, but whatever the reason, I'm glad that he added more photography and images into this book.
Good points, Mark. I think actually we might have to mention the pricing of the book, because this new book is a whole lot more expensive than the other ones. And I think one big thing is it contains color, lots of pictures and photos, while the previous were pretty much black and white books, almost like Xerox copies. So I think that's one thing that put up the price, but it's still worth it. But
it's worth every cent.
Yeah, it costs a bit more than the others, but it's well worth it. And but one thing, if we can bring up something that's not my favorite thing about the book, the front is perfect, but I don't know what Julian was thinking with this side, especially. This text make me nauseous.
That text,
it's like
wow.
It's like if I've taken a few too many beers.
Dizzy.
So I think this could have been done a bit better. The text is perfect, but I don't care for the visuals on the back. But you mostly look on the front, and the front is like perfect. So that's the most important thing. What about you, Ken? What do you say about the visuals of the book?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the cover draws you to it, and it's just a fantastic, I don't know if it was done via, painting or probably computer graphics, I'm sure. Just a great job on that. I think that's really a great cover. As for the layout, I think it's fantastic. And again, it's all in color, where other things before, were usually black and white. So, and it has a lot of more details and things. So, just a great layout of the whole book. I mean, he hasn't laid out anything like this. Even the pages themselves have a background to them. What's there. You can, if you really look deep, you can see some things behind the text, behind the pictures. There's these real other kind of art or something behind a lot of the pages. So it's really cool.
One thing that should be brought up too really quickly is that the person who did the front cover is Claudio Bergamin.
Yeah, that's right.
That's who's listed as the cover artist, and we should mention that, of course.
Yes.
That guy has made a lot of good covers. He's made some album covers for some pretty famous artists as well. Judas Priest, yeah, I think the one Firepower or
that's the
whatever
one.
it's called.
Yeah.
And it's also done one of my favorite bands called Battle Beast from Finland, which is a real cool band. He's done the artwork for that. So I don't know how. I think he met the guy on a cruise or he met him somewhere and knew the guy a little bit. So that's the way he got in touch with this guy. But you can see he is a real pro, this one, who's made this one. Not to say that the other covers from his old books are terrible, but this is by far I don't know by far. I pretty much like the one he had for the solo albums and The Elder as well. So he's always had kind of good covers. The ones for Kiss on Tour are a bit more, simple, but they work. They work as well.
Yeah,
I just said that. Yeah, Kissteria Mass Kissteria is. I said it was a bit more expensive. Well, the point is these are really cheap. I would like to say, these books, Kiss on Tour, are really cheap. I mean, you get almost 500 pages at a really cheap price. So I didn't mention my favorite. What?
The prices have gone up since those books too, and I think that's part of
a bit.
Yeah,
but they are still not expensive.
Yeah,
you have
in
to keep
comparison,
in mind, like 500 pages almost for I don't know in dollars it might be like how much is it in dollars, this one? It's
I don't
like
remember.
I think it's like, can it be like $25 or something? It's
Something
not
like
that.
that.
Even still, that's a great deal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's a great deal. Actually, these are probably my favorites. I really enjoy these because there's a lot of detail. Kiss on Tour books are cool books and a lot of text, so you get a lot for the buck, a lot of bang for the buck. So
actually, what I like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen them before. I had them in the other room. I should have grabbed them before, but Julian made for the Rockin' Pod conventions, the first one, a small, like really small booklet version of some of the chapters. And I have the first tour one, I have the Unmasked one, and I had the Freedom to Rock one as well. So they're like little small ones, like the size of this actually, maybe, or a little bit bigger than this. But it's like a smaller version of the book. It's just that one singular chapter, and I bought 3 of those ones off of him. If he had some of the other ones, I would have grabbed those as well. But the single chapters are interesting because they're light. You can carry them around if you're a big Kiss reader. You can take it with you in the car or whatever if you need something to read, or if you're waiting for somebody or something. It's great, you know.
Do you have them nearby? I haven't seen them.
Actually, give me a second. I'll go grab one. I think I have them in my next room. Okay.
Cool.
Give me a second.
We'll just start the next part.
Yeah. What he said, take it with you. You can take it with you. It reminds me of the old Kiss commercial, the radio. You know, the Kiss radio. They said, take it with you.
Radio.
Take it with you.
Radio.
Yeah.
That's a cool one. So the visuals. It seems like all of us are really pleased with the visuals, and we think it's an improvement for him, and we're hoping he does this with other eras of the band. You know, it would be cool to see other tours getting this kind of treatment. But when it comes to what it says in the text, did you actually learn something new, Ken? Was there any new information that made you go, aha? Didn't know about that?
Yeah, there's stuff.
As a true Kiss fan, maybe you know everything. But there's
a lot of things well, I don't pretend to know everything about Kiss anyway, but there's a lot of things in there that I hadn't heard before, or if something stuck out, like, oh, that's interesting, this or that. Even towards the end of the book, even just seeing that they did, record, for instance, and this is after the Unmasked tour, when they're getting in towards the Elder, where they have the whole record company. There's a memo where they want Bob Ezrin to be the producer, and I just thought, when I saw that, I thought of Mark first thing I saw. And anyway, there's that, and then I see where they recorded, what's the song that we always say should have been on Creatures, but released. I'm just blanking out right now. It's my life. It's my life, right? Sorry, It's My Life was recorded even before Elder, as a demo. And I think I was like, oh shit, they should have, I'm thinking, oh wow, let's get a box set of that. But the one other little quick thing is, I'm guessing Julian will probably do, I don't know, but Destroyer, because it's going to be easy to connect this period to the solo album period, because it's right, not Destroyer, I'm sorry, Dynasty.
Love Girl.
Right?
Okay.
Because they can connect this and the solo albums, and Dynasty falls right in between. So you'll have solo albums,
Dynasty,
Unmasked, and then
the Elder.
The Elder.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so those books I was mentioning to you are they look like this. See, this is the Unmasked one.
Okay.
So it's on tour, and if you look inside there, it's the same kind of format as the one that you have, right? It's but it's just like a more condensed version of it, obviously, right? So I have one of this right here for the Unmasked, right? I also have this one here, which is the Freedom to Rock tour, right? And that one also has, tour dates as well on there as well. The other one, the first tour one, I think I have it down in the basement, so I didn't grab that one. But to show you my earliest book that I got from Julian, and I know whenever I mention this book, he kind of rolls his eyes. He's like, that's terrible, some of my most terrible work. But I disagree. I think it's fantastic. I've enjoyed it. It was the first book I ever bought from him. Was this one?
So, here's another
Focus.
The Vault.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a hardback of the Vault, about the music in the Vault. So this is a smaller book. I had to just take this out of my vault right now.
I've never seen the inside of that one. Can you just show us a little bit?
Yeah. What does it have in there? Yeah. I mean, it's signed by Julian Gill too. But It's mostly text. It may have a couple
Let's see it. Come on.
Pictures in here. Let me see here. There's something here. It has the passes where I was, that, and it's just text. And
how many pages?
Tells you the disc and the disc number, and then the song title that's on the disc in that order. How many pages? 130.
Okay.
Around. 134.
400 pages. Okay. I didn't know it was that many pages.
No, it's Gene Simmons Band on the picture on that one. So
I don't think there is a short Julian Gill book. I mean, this one here is like 241 pages long.
Might be the shortest one.
And this is like the Sonic Boom kind of era and stuff like that, right? 2006 to 2013. And I like this. This is my introduction to his writings, right? So this is my kind of entryway to it. And without that, I would never have gotten the Odyssey or the solo album books or even this one. And I'm glad I did discover it, because I think that also kind of opened the whole thing with the podcast too. Because I think that when I had just did the first episode of the podcast with those guys, when they did the anniversary of Dressed to Kill, that was way back. I think shortly after that, I ordered that book. So,
okay, I just asked Ken about what he learned from the book. Any new information? Any new things that you picked up from the book? I just have to mention before you can have a few moments to think about that, Mark. I said Ken mentioned something that we need to underline a bit. A lot of the information is about things that they were going to do.
Yeah,
that never happened.
Yeah.
And of course, people don't know about that. I think that was kind of interesting to see all the plans, all the ideas
movie
that nothing came of. And some of the ideas sounded great. Some of the ideas sounded not so great. But it was really entertaining to read about it. So I think that was one of the strong points in the book. The things that never happened. But Mark, were there something that you learned or something you want to underline?
Well, I think mainly what I kind of learned from this book was, and again, I always go back to the contract stuff, because you never know much about the detailed stuff until you see these things. Like I find fascinating like how much certain singles sold in certain countries, like that when they showed that information of how much is sold. And again, that movie that they were going to do, that Behind the Mask movie, that you never knew that was even going to happen. And what was great was the information here, like this here, like when they were showed the patent and trademark stuff that they did for the makeup, right? Like I know that they did that, because he did mention it before in other books, but just to see more detail about that, and there's a lot of stuff in here that you can learn about. Like, for example, I didn't know much about Eric Carr's background, before he joined Kiss, right? So, and they had a section here on Flasher, whatever that band was. And it talks a little bit about that in there as well, and there's so much in here. I mean, I went through this book. Let's put it this way: I went through this book already twice, and I think these kind of books, you have to go through it multiple times to retain it. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
You can go through it once and then you can probably remember only about 4 or 5 things, because it's like, Jesus, I just went through a whole book of stuff and I can remember like a quarter of it, but then you got to go through it again and then it starts sticking. I find that the best books for me are like that, right? Where I have to read it multiple times and then it starts sticking, oh yeah, I remember now that about, this single, or this about Peter Criss's Out of Control solo album and stuff like that. Like, like maybe people didn't know that when he did his first solo record that he was still under contract with Kiss still. And one thing I didn't know that was interesting there that they mentioned was that the fee that they had to pay Eric Carr to play, like his weekly fee or whatever, came out of Peter Criss's cut of the Kiss stuff. Like, to replace him, he's like, okay, we're gonna have to replace you. Well, it's coming out of your share of Kiss stuff, because we had to replace you, right? I didn't know that they did that. It's kind of a bit of a dick move, but I think it's still, they did it, right? So it's those kind of little things that, even probably the most Yeah, even the most knowledgeable Kiss fan, I think, will probably figure out one or two new things for sure in this book specifically.
And another thing, just quickly, when you were talking about the format and stuff, but it gets to the Italy or that era part of the tour or something, in a foreign language that's not English, and you have the articles like that. Julian has translated a lot of reviews. Fortunately for us that cannot read, Italian or whatever language, it was very helpful and very cool that.
Just a quick question on that, Ken. A quick question. What do you think about the translation? Does it feel like English, or do they feel like they've been done by a computer?
No, it feels pretty good. It feels like it's done pretty well. I didn't feel that it sounded like that a computer did it. It felt like
I didn't feel that it was like that.
It felt like it flowed fine as a review. Yeah, it worked out pretty good.
But the question is for Daniel. We'll have to turn
English
that question to you. How did you feel that his Swedish translation was?
How did that work?
Did you feel that it was kind of close, or did you think it was way off, or how was it?
I helped him out with a difficult part, so it's really good.
Okay.
But I do have to say he misspelled the place where Kiss played, Eriksdalshallen. He missed an S, and that's just terrible. It almost destroys the whole book for me.
Oh my God.
No, he knows he did that mistake. I think he's corrected it since, and if there's another edition, I think he'll fix that. So
now, is this true here? I just flipped through the page here, and I'm pretty sure this is in the Swedish section. Yeah, it's still Sweden.
Okay.
That there's a review here. It says from another local review, Kiss is the ABBA of hard rock. Is it? Did they really think that in Sweden, that Kiss are the ABBA of hard rock?
I don't think that's the general thought of Kiss, that it's the ABBA of rock. There's really seldom comparisons between ABBA and Kiss in Sweden. Kiss is Kiss and ABBA is ABBA, and there's no... Kiss is more compared with, children's band. Yeah, actually, I read a few reviews. I went
Archies.
to 2 shows a month back, and a lot of the reviewers compared Kiss to
Menudo.
How should I put this? Children music for adults. There's some
music for adults.
Yeah, it's like fun and games and explosions, and there's really nothing dangerous anymore. It's just happy go, it's a happy time. And
it's interesting, yeah. Because I'm seeing here, it says that Kiss, it says they're the ABBA of hard rock. The group plays usually bland and thin hard rock. They are about as sexy as Mickey Mouse, and the most overt violence in the show is when the 2 rockets are fired from the neck of the guitar. The blood that the bass player Gene Simmons drooled was so fake that it wouldn't scare anybody.
Yeah,
so
they got really
they
got thrashed in the press in 1980. Terrible reviews, most of them.
A lot of the reviews, critics never liked them.
They weren't popular at the time. It was the same thing in America, even worse. So people ridiculed them.
Even when they were popular.
In 83, 84, they were one of the hottest band around here in Scandinavia. So they managed to turn it around. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a little bit about new information and what you learned. And it's surprised. I mean, did the book meet your expectations? We all knew this was coming a long time. Did it meet your expectations? Were there any surprises? What do you say, Ken? Your initial reaction?
I think it met or exceeded my expectations. Based on based on his prior books, you kind of figure, think what you're going to get. But he had flipped through it when he was flipping through it before he released it. I was seeing some of the formatting. I thought, oh, this looks this looks pretty
Step up.
cool. Yeah, it's a step up. And being in color definitely helps.
Yeah, hell yeah.
With the color pictures. I mean, of course, articles are black and white usually anyway, but even that works better, I think, than you just plain black and white. I mean, you got all the color here. It's really cool. This wouldn't look that good in black and white,
No.
So I would say it exceeded based on the prior ones. I think it's a step in the right direction as far as doing these types of books on tours or a period of time and going forward for other stuff. And maybe this format might not work well with some other type of subject, maybe not, but I think as far as doing these tours, it does work really good.
What about you, Mark?
Well, far past my expectation, because from what I was used to, and I was happy with the format that Julian was doing before with the sort of more black and white and a lot of text and a picture here and there. But man, I mean, I found the first time I went through the book, I wasn't even reading half of it. I was just looking at all the images, like, oh, look at this album. Oh, look at the splatter vinyl, ooh, and stuff like that. I was going through it and just looking through all the imagery, because a lot of this imagery, because for someone like me, I'm mainly a vinyl collector of Kiss. I don't collect the trinkets and the posters and the stuff like that. So when I see some of this stuff that's in here, like what Ken's holding up there, I mean, I find it fascinating. Like, I'd love to get that, splatter vinyl, even though they did do a reissue of it, right? But there's a lot of imagery in there that I wasn't, I didn't know about. So that was a big thing that I found was good. And again, a lot of the information within the contracts, that's always been a big thing for me. Every time I go online, I always try to find if there's people posted any kind of contracts for, not just Kiss, but other bands as well. I'm so fascinated by what record labels have offered in the past, and how they got hosed or how they didn't get hosed and stuff like that. So I like reading that kind of stuff. So I think Julian went above and beyond what I expected. I think that there's a lot of stuff in there that has kept me interested and still keeping me interested now. I mean, like I said, to me, I've read it already a couple of times, but it's still extremely fresh to me still.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think one of my favorite parts is probably the press clippings as well. I think it's cool to see them, visually see them, instead of in the previous books, like in Kiss on Tour, he writes them in text, but you can't see the actual clipping from the newspaper. So I enjoy that, and I especially enjoy this one from Sweden. There's a small one here at page 156, and it talks. It's written about 6 Englishmen that were in custody. They partied a bit too hard. The Englishmen, they didn't even make it to the show, I think, because they partied. They crashed the ferry from almost crashed the interior of the ferry from England to Sweden. That like true English, what do they call the football fans or soccer fans? Hooligans, yeah. I'm a hooligan. Yeah. That old Peter Criss gem, yeah.
There was one other thing. There was another clipping where, I don't know if you noticed it, I think it was Italy, where it was listed their names and the bass, it was like Gene Simmons bass and Paul Stanley, and I can't remember the word for those, guitar or whatever, but it got to Eric Carr. It didn't say Eric Carr. It said Paul Caravello, right? Yeah. I'm like, what? How'd they get his real name? On that. How did that guy get it? I thought, wow. That's pretty good investigation by that guy.
It's August 27 to 28. It says, the following day, Eric's real name was revealed in the press on the 28th of August.
Crazy.
So that was the first time they got a hold of his real name. in Italy. And another little detail, I think it's kind of cool that it made the effort to. I know over here Americans are pretty famous for being lousy at geography. I don't know if that goes for you, Ken, but
yeah, I'm pretty lousy at geography.
yeah. So this might be new to you, but this is the flag of Italy.
Oh yeah,
and he uses the colors at the top of the page when he
yeah,
writes Italy.
that's nice.
Colors of the flag. I think it's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you get a little flag lesson on these pages.
I love that. I was a big
Which is
flag
good.
guy when I was younger.
I know Mark was really good when we did the KISS quizzes on flags and geography. So I guess he went to Canadian school, but Ken, you went to American school.
Yeah, we just talk about the
know what
U.S.
to do with
That's
that.
it. You know, no one else matters, right?
USA. USA.
USA.
USA. Yeah, but there's just no American flag in here, darn it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But do you remember that Jay Leno? Remember that? Was it called the Late Show or the Jay
the
Leno
Tonight
Show?
Show. Yeah, with Jay
Tonight-
Leno.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And he did the jaywalking thing.
Oh yeah, that was great. He asked them simple questions. I know. Who's the first president? They wouldn't know who the first
He
president
didn't
was.
know anything. Well, first he asked, "What do you do?" Well, I'm a student at the UCLA. Okay, so where is America? And they pointed to Russia. What? Yeah, it's the biggest thing on the map. It has to be the
Yeah,
USA.
there's some people that
USA.
obviously did not
USA.
go to
Biggest.
school or did not graduate. It's
they,
like,
they
man,
go to school, but
it's embarrassing.
What the hell
It's a-
they're doing there? At some
Man.
point.
It's embarrassing watching these idiots. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but Julian is, of course, actually he's an Englishman, I think. So
Yes.
Right.
he knows geography. Yeah. So we talked about a lot of things we like with the book. Are there things that you would like to, add, change, omit from the book? Something that you don't feel is really up to par, that it could have been done better or in a different way, or could have been, wasn't needed. I can start. I mentioned at the top of the show the back of the book. I think it's such a letdown when you look at the front. It's great,
Such a-
and the back you get like
It's
this,
kind of
or something. when
the
you look at
unmasked
this.
album cover, and then the
Yeah,
back.
I think it
big
should have
letdown.
done something. This text should really not be here. This is okay, but
Yeah.
what this text, I don't know. If you move it fast, you might faint or something. Yeah. So that's one of the things I think it should change. Other than that, I had a hard time finding anything I would like to change. Maybe that he repeated himself once or twice. You look at a
Yeah.
page and you see a news clipping, and then you move on a few more pages, and the same clipping turns up again.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Or,
I guess.
for example, in the beginning, when you read about the Unmasked Tour, you get the same information. First he has like a summary of the Unmasked Tour, and then you read about the dates, and you get the same information again. It's not a big problem in this book. I think it's been kind of an issue in some of his books that he repeats the same information. But I guess he's like me. When I teach the students, I have to repeat everything at least 3 times in order for them to remember
Make it
anything.
stick, yeah.
Yes, so it might have something. He really wants to teach you about the era, so he might, mention it once or twice or 3 times. But I think at times I feel he should trust the reader a bit more. When I read it once, I remember it. You don't have to mention it a lot of more times. So other than that, I didn't find a whole lot that I wanted to change. I think he did a great job. And Julian always said, I'm a fan, I'm not really an author, but I think he can call himself an author.
Yeah, of course.
Professional
You can.
author.
Come on.
He's one of the greatest KISS authors around. So
Yes.
we're all really happy that he did this thing. What about you, Mark? You seem to have something on your mind.
Yes, I do have something on my mind. Now, it's not a negative in the sense that there's nothing in the book that he's done that I can really criticize. I've been very happy with what I have to read. My only point that could be considered negative is I think that there's something missing from this. Now, I understand that this is more focused on the actual touring aspect of it, because the way it's written here, it says, Mass Kissteria World Tour 1980-1981. So it's obviously focusing on that section of that time period. And you know me, you guys have known me for a long time now. So
Yeah.
I'm a big guy who loves to focus on studio stuff. Okay. One thing that I would have wished that there was a little bit more discussion on is maybe a little bit of talk about the actual recording sessions themselves, maybe a picture from the record plant, with Vinnie Poncia. I know there's some pictures before that where you see Paul with a big ass beard and stuff, because back in those times they weren't really playing that much, so he had a beard and stuff like that going on. So like a little bit of information about the recording end of the thing, because I know they go into a bit of detail about the album in there, like the album focus, but more of the technical details. Because I know, like, one thing I love about the Odyssey book is he has an interview with Robert Friedman, I believe his name is, and he's one of the engineers of the album, and he goes into great detail, like what kind of mixing console they had, the 24-track machine that they use, the outboard gear. That for me is like, okay, I'm staying here on this chapter for the next day or two just to reread it over and over again, because I love that kind of stuff, because I love recording myself. I'd love to know, like, what kind of compressors did he use for that? Oh, let me go try to find one of those and see if it sounds that good. Like that kind of information is missing from this, but that's hardly, I think, a negative point, because I think to me more of a negative is if there's something in there that I don't like. But there's nothing in the book that I don't like. I love everything that's in the book. I just wish that there would have been a couple of pictures from the studio in there, and maybe a little bit of information about the process itself.
Yeah, it's so hard to please all Kiss fans.
Yeah, of course.
So I get your point, but that might have been one of the things he felt was a bit too much into detail, so he didn't want to add that, or whatever. We'll have to talk with him about that next time.
Have you ever seen? Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, have you ever seen a studio picture of them recording Unmasked?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, from Unmasked.
Okay. Maybe I don't remember. There's just one.
I remember it's a picture of him, Gene, and Paul has this huge beard on him.
Oh, beard. Yeah,
so you sure it's not from the Dynasty session?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. So, that'd be cool to have. I see what you're saying. It'd be just an addition kind of thing, and maybe I'm sure there's cases where he had too much, and how much text there was, you had to leave out even lots of clippings or photos too, to just make it fit right, and that could be part of the reason, but what was the question?
The question is
negative.
Or constructive criticism.
Yeah,
constructive criticism. No, I think he should have maybe not. This is not really criticism, but somehow tried to promote his other books more, besides just that book. Put a list of all your books on the back page.
That's a good idea.
Other books, and people can go out there and just.
They could have.
They don't
taken away this. The beer text.
Instead of that, just say put USA and wear my blue on the back. But anyway,
USA.
It's no real criticisms really. No, I can't think of any. Oh wait, maybe one simple. Okay, if you want me to get it.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, we want that.
Sometimes the page numbers. I noticed they're different colors, but sometimes I can't 88 looks really weird. It's almost hard to read it. It's just the font. It's the Kiss. It's the Kiss font kind of thing. That was used a lot.
That's not really a good font. The Kiss font. I don't really like that font. The S's look great, but that's about it.
Remember the S's. That's
but I of course he has to use that font, But it doesn't really translate into the other letters and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, no real criticism.
No, so we don't have a lot of criticism because we all think the book is great. So if you would have to grade the book, you can't compare it to like Hemingway or something, but the other Kiss books, some of the greatest Kiss books, Chris Lantz is supposed
Kiss
to
and
be the
Sell.
greatest Kiss book.
Yeah, Kiss and Sell.
That's 5 out of 5. Where would you put this book? Do you give it like 1 out of 5 or 3 out of 5? Or
And it's different. It's kind of a different category.
I think I would give it honestly, and I look at it like this. I would give this, if it was out of 5, I would give this book a 4.5. Mainly because I think it is his best work, but I won't give it a 5 because I still think that Julian has a better book still in him. That there's still a book that he will surpass this one with, that's still in him. I don't know which one it'll be, what album it'll be, but I think Julian has still at least one more good, like really good book, 5 out of 5 in him.
That's good. Ken.
Yeah, it's kind of different. Then you can't really compare like Chris Lent book to this type of book.
Yes, you can do it.
I can't. It's different. It's different.
Oh, typical Ken.
It's very different. More of
everything is a tie.
Biography versus.
Yeah, I can't.
It's a tie.
Can't go either. It's a tie.
No, I mean, I'll go with what Mark said. Like 4.5. There probably will be better books than this one. There are a lot of interesting periods that he can cover in this, same type of format and improve on it. I'm sure it's all a learning experience as you go along, and I'm sure it'll be improved upon when he goes forward with whatever he tries to tackle next.
Yeah, I think he has done a great improvement when it comes to the visuals. We've talked about that. But I don't think he's realized the importance of the visuals until this one. This is the first time he's understood the importance of visuals in a Kiss book. So I'm really looking forward to his next project, whatever it will be. I think Ken mentioned a great idea there, doing a dynasty thing, tying all the books together, from the solo albums to the Elder. That's a great idea, Ken. We have to promote that idea to Julian.
I'm sure he's already thinking of it. He is. He is.
Don't be so sure. Okay, so that's the greatest improvement, and I think you guys nailed it. It's a really good book. It's hard to do a better book on the Unmasked era on the Unmasked tour, but I do feel Julian has understood there's more to a book than the text, so the next time it'll be even better. So I have to agree with you guys. I'd give it close to a 5. It's a really good book. And I hope you guys go out and buy it. So I guess that's our take on Mass Kissteria. We all like it. It's close to a 5. Great visuals, great content. But what would you like to see from Julian in the future? Ken has already mentioned his idea. Maybe you want to elaborate on that. The dinosaur thing, Ken. How would that come into fruition? How would it look? What would you like to have in the book, and so on? Can you elaborate a little bit on that one? I think it was a great idea.
I mean, just pretty much the same type of format. I think you're going to get a lot more because of, they did a U.S. tour versus, like Unmasked, where there was no U.S. tour. And there's a good amount of dates. I think they had to cancel some, obviously. I think that'd be interesting, as he goes along and says, "Oh, this one, we got, like the 2 shows in Lakeland, Florida, and one was canceled, and more, in-depth, details on what happened there, and how the ticket sales were at the time, and so on, and but again, the rest of it, same thing, focusing on the album too." Recording of the album like Mark wants, of course, and then the other stuff that was going on, even you could even put merch in there that they were selling as far as Dynasty type stuff at the time. Would be interesting to even include beyond the newspaper clippings and other stuff like that, reviews and so on. But definitely keep it color and just similar to that.
Great ideas. What do you think, Mark? You can't use his idea. You have to.
No, I'm not going to use his idea. But
Sure.
I definitely think though that he does a good job on focusing on certain periods. So I think that to sort of look at certain periods in general is a good way for him to write these books out. Because the problem with some books is that you try to write about a lot of information into a small book. You know what I mean? Like C.K. Lent's book luckily focused from a certain period of his career. It didn't focus on all of Kiss's career. That's why I think it made for such a good read, because he didn't have to talk about the club days and all this stuff. He didn't have to try to squeeze in like 50 years into like 300 pages, right?
You have to narrow it down.
Yeah. So I think that this is a good format for Julian, I think. And I think that, there's lots of time periods where there could be more sort of juicy information to talk about. Like, for example, look at the Animalized period, like one of Daniel's favorite eras, when Gene was kind of checking out, looking into Hollywood more and looking to do movies and stuff like that. I'm sure there's lots of things that he could discover about that time period from Gene, and like find articles about stuff, or find contracts of him trying out for certain movie roles or something like that. Like, you could really get into detail with some of these things in other books. I think for Julian, this is his strong suit, is really kind of focusing in on a time period and really trying to attack everything that's in there in that time period. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, that Bible that I just held up before, that's like a culmination of years and years of work that he's done to do that, to put that together. But that's just, we're talking about shows, right? I mean, if he was to talk about the amount of detail that he put into this book that we just talked about today, into all of those albums, it would be like 3,000 page book, not like 1,000. It'd have to be like tripled, right? Because of the amount of information he could probably have discovered on some of these things. So, I really think that this is a good idea for him, and I think focusing on these albums is a good thing for him to do.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. He has to focus on a period, of course, or a tour, or an album, and a tour. And I think at least Lonnie would appreciate something on the Revenge era, because there's nothing on it really. There's that old book, not that old, a few years back, Greg Prado made a book called, he wrote a book called Take It Off.
Take It Off.
It wasn't really, it was okay, it was nothing special, because he tried to, do all of the no makeup era, and that's pretty hard. He had some great interviews with Bruce and so on, but I'd like to see something on the Revenge era, and I'm hoping, I don't know if that's a big seller. Maybe he should do something on the Reunion era if you want to move some books. I think a lot of people would appreciate that, and there's a lot of fans that appreciate that era, old fans and new fans. They met a lot of new fans during that period, like I think Andrew Scambatti and guys like that. They that are a little bit younger, that they took notice of Kiss because of the Reunion. So something on the Reunion could probably be pretty interesting, because I think if you focus on the Reunion tour, like 96, 97, that could be pretty interesting. They did some albums. You could talk a lot about that as well. They did Greatest Kiss in 97, and when did they release that thing, You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best? Was that in 97 as well? 96 maybe?
I want to say 96.
96, I think. But there's a whole history behind that album. It was supposed to be something completely different, something really exciting, but ended up being kind of a letdown. So
Yeah.
something about that period I think would be pretty cool. But I do think he should keep the format that he used for this latest product. I think it was really interesting because if you read a lot of rock and roll books, you know, this is one of the classics from Motley Crue, The Dirt. It's a great book.
Yeah, I love
there
that.
aren't a lot of pictures in this one, and they tend to put every picture in the middle of the book. You know, they have a
Yeah.
and then it's just text.
Yeah.
So you read, and finally some pictures. I enjoy the way Julian did it this time around, where you have pictures and news clippings all the way through the book, instead of, you know, unloading everything in the middle like people do most of the time. By the way, if you guys out there haven't heard the album with John Corabi from '94, go and listen to that one. That's actually my favorite Motley Crue album. Sort of a odd record, but a real cool record.
But now that you mentioned, though, the reunion there, Daniel, one thing that I think would be an interesting read would be to take a look at Psycho Circus. I mean, the album that we got, you know, that they pulled the wool over our eyes on, you know. We were supposed to have an original member album, and we got anything but that. So there could be all kinds of information that could be discovered about that and talked about during that time period.
Love to see
maybe
the
you could do the
contracts for that.
reunion era. It's pretty short, you know. It's just 5 years, so there's a lot of stuff there that I think people are interested in learning more about. So I think that could work. But if we move on from Julian and go into all the Kiss fans, all the Kiss authors, are there books that you are anticipating, Kiss books that you want to see come, you know, being written? I always thought about, I met a guy at the 2 concerts in Dalhalla, Sweden, you know, that Kiss did a month ago or something. It was a little Italian guy. You know, Italian, you hear it. They talk very loud and very fast. I heard Italian when I walked around, you know, just before the first show was going to start. And then I looked over and I saw this guy. I recognized that guy. And it was Nico, you know, the one who did the Strike magazine in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I think it was his 200 Kiss show. So he was pretty upbeat, and he was holding some balloons, you know, that said 200 and so on. So I talked to him briefly. And then the second night he was there as well. So this guy has seen a lot of Kiss, and he's taken a whole lot of photos of Kiss. Through the makeup, through the reunion, and through the non-makeup years. I think he started that fan club in the late 80s, like 87 or something. So he has a lot, and he's always been taking photographs. So a photo book from Nico would be real cool to see. He could actually do several photo books or on different eras. So I would enjoy something from that guy. Maybe something on the Revenge tour or something, because I know he went over and saw a whole lot of shows from the Revenge tour. What about you guys? Any Kiss book that you would like to see, Ken, that hasn't been written yet?
I mean, I don't think it'll happen, but I don't know if there's enough details.
You could wish,
out there, but I would love to have something that just focused on the studio stuff, recordings, and you know how they recorded the songs and the takes and the guitars, the instruments they use for these songs on each song, that sort of thing. You know, kind of going back to the Beatles. Have some really, you know, there's a couple.
Yeah, I have a Beatles recording.
Yeah, that's just
there.
fantastic. You know, that's details. I don't know if they could probably never get into that detail, but that would be cool. That's, you know, to see that kind of stuff. Read that going through their career. The other thing would be, you know, if they just do more box sets and they continue to put those books that come along. Those are pretty pretty cool. You know, it's not everything, of course, but it has interview and stuff like that with the band members and the other information that's in there. Like the Destroyer box set and the Creatures box set. Those books are cool. If they decide to do more box sets, hopefully we'll get more of that. But yeah, the studio stuff would be interesting to me, and what they played, and all that kind of minutia stuff.
I guess, Mark, you would like to see something similar, maybe.
I was going to say that's kind of the book that you would expect me to say, because I'm always into that kind of stuff. But I think one book that I was always surprised that hasn't come out, because I really enjoyed the first one, was when Ken Sharp, he did Nothing to Lose, that book.
Yeah.
Remember, that kind of focused on the beginnings up to about Alive. And it had a lot of stuff in there that I had no clue about. Like, I didn't realize that, they were, that, the producers, Kerner and Weiss, were trying to, convince Kiss to leave Casablanca and to go over onto this other record label. And then Bogart found out and fired them all. And that's why they didn't appear on Dressed to Kill. And, like, all these things that Ken Sharp wrote in that book, I thought was fantastic. And I thought for sure that he would have continued on from there, like from the Destroyer onward. Like I thought that was for sure in the books, because that book was so good, and it was so well received, not only mainly by Kiss people, I'm sure, but I'm sure that if people who had read it, even if they weren't diehard Kiss fans, they were just music fans, I think they would have really enjoyed it the way it was written. I think he did a great job. Why that book hasn't come out, I have a feeling that it's something to do with Kiss. I can always imagine that they're probably holding it up for some reason, or don't want it discussed, or you know how those guys are. I mean, any good idea, Kiss will either not do it, or they'll be like 7 years behind in doing it. That's how Kiss are, right? So
I think it didn't pay that Ken Sharp guy enough. Because I guess he wrote all of that stuff, and then they made a deal. You can promote this book. You can this book can come out if you give us this amount of money, or this piece of the cake. Things. Yeah, and I guess they took too much, so he didn't feel it was an idea to continue that. Otherwise, it would have been great just to do the eras, 72 to 75, 76 to 78, 79 to all the way. But that's up to Julian to do that right now. He has the formula. He has the template that works. The Elder, and then Ken's idea, Dynasty, and he has already done the solo albums and Unmasked now. So keep up the good work. On a side note, I just have to mention, I saw Ken was really into one topic on the message board this week. It was a topic between, I guess, Andrew Scambatti and his foe. Andrew Scambatti has been... Yeah, the Gooch has said that Andrew Scambatti is behind the leak. That Andrew Scambatti is Sam Loomis. What do you have to say about all that, Ken? I saw you wrote some stuff about that.
Is that Goochapalooza, that thread?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Every time someone puts a video up there, Gooch blocks it, or whatever, and then he sends threatening emails or messages to the people who, are posting these videos up there on YouTube or whatever. It's gotten to be ridiculous at this point. I mean, it's proof he doesn't. He treats it as if he owns these videos, and I don't think he owns them. He says he licenses them, but I think they're more of really Kiss's ownership, in my opinion. And from what I understand, we know he stole them, or a bunch of them, from somewhere, or that when they were doing the A&E documentary or whatever, and then down the road sold the stuff. Why would, if you license this stuff out, if they were licensed, why would you be selling, hard drives or whatever, however many terabytes or whatever it is, to multiple people? It it just doesn't make any sense. So he seems pretty rude, and like I say on there, karma's gonna come get him one of these days. Maybe Batman will get him. I don't know, but
Robin.
Yeah, here's a direct quote from Ken. What a deranged Kiss video hoarder Gooch is.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
my.
he's drained.
Yeah,
Just
with the
and
strong
that's
words.
based on some of the things he's says to people, and he starts talking about the FBI, or actually, he had the FBI. The FBI actually came to Andrew's door, I guess, and that's just. In my opinion, that's going too far.
Hell yeah. I think he wrote something about, he made up a story about Andrew had been threatening to kill his child or something.
Oh yeah, his son or something, and that's total bonkers,
Yeah,
it's just making up stuff. I think.
Do you remember
that's why I
a
say
few years
deranged.
back? Do you remember a few years back when Julian interviewed that guy when they released an ebook of Kiss? What's the name
Kiss
of it?
Alive Forever.
Kiss Alive Forever.
Book. Yeah, there's another
it seemed
book
like
right there, right?
It's a real good interview, and they seem like nice guys, but something happened along the way, I guess. Kind of lost his mind.
Yeah.
One person actually hinted that Gooch was employed by the Kiss company, and instead of paying up for the stuff he stole, they hired him in order to chase the stuff. What do you think about that? Yeah.
That's a theory. I don't know if I believe that. I think they just want to rather just get their stuff in their hands. Why would you have that guy doing their policing? I think they would hire real lawyers and stuff to do that. They have lawyers already, so I don't see a reason. Yeah, well, he's doing it because otherwise he'd have to, sell his house or something. Maybe, I don't know. They'd sue the heck out of him for what he's done already, and maybe that's what should probably happen in the first place, instead of what's going on now. But yeah, crazy stuff.
Yeah, any thoughts on that matter, Mark?
I don't know whether he is or not Andrew. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine him being, the infamous Sam Loomis. And if he is,
They say Andrew had that strange story about his computer being.
Yeah, that
bullcrap.
I have to say, yeah, that's the one thing that kind of makes me sometimes suspect whether he's being honest, because I mean that was a pretty big lie that was said there.
That had to do with the Hot in the Shade.
Yeah,
and
he
seems to really have a big desire to be seen and known for his stuff.
Yeah, there is ways to look at it where you could probably say that it's possible, but you know what? I've always believed that the truth will eventually come out one way or another. I think it's just a matter of time. But look, we have to all admit this on this little gathering that we have here together today, is that we have definitely benefited from whoever this Sam Loomis is.
Yeah, we all love
We've gotten
Sam
some
Loomis.
Fantastic footage that we
Loomis.
now have in our collection.
Sam Lewis. We actually did an episode called Sam Lewis for President, which was one of our most popular episodes that year.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I mean, so you got to admit, like now I have a complete version of a live Cobo Hall Night 1 that has the complete proper encores with the handing out of the gold records and everything.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sam Loomis, for that. And also have some Destroyer stuff, footage and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that we did get as collectors that we're probably happy about.
good times.
So, yeah, and I know Daniel's especially over the moon when the revenge stuff started leaking out.
Hell yeah, good stuff. I just wish I remember there was one revenge show leaked, but it wasn't all of it. It was cut in half or something.
Yeah.
But I managed to get a hold of the Tokyo '95 video, which was like awesome and one of the best ones I've seen in a long time. So I think we're all pretty positive towards Sam Loomis, If that is Andrew or not, I don't know.
We don't know,
I don't
but-
think so.
I don't think
There's
so.
some real crazy stuff going along and going around those guys. You know, the Gooch and Andrew, and it's a mess. It's a mess. We'll see. Like Mark said, eventually the truth will come forward. Maybe. Let's hope it does.
I think so.
Anything else you guys want to mention about the book or the discussions there, or should we wrap things up?
Well, just get it before it's gone. Jillian
Yes,
said it's
definitely.
limited. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's limited. So usually that means it's not going to be around forever to buy.
Yeah, so go to maskshysteria.com. That's maskshysteria.com and order your copy now.
And you can get on Amazon too. So
Yeah, just go to Amazon and type Julian Gill or Mask Hysteria and it'll pop up.
Yeah,
So I guess
Definitely suggest that.
that's it. So from Ken, Mark, and me, Daniel, see you around. See you next time. Keep on kissing.
Yes.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.